I drove all the way from there to Memorial Hospital, shot in the back myself twice.
Ratting on someone is always looked down on in the rap community, but what Ksoo's dad did is pretty much unreal. In case you didn't know, Ksoo's dad revealed that he would be telling on his own son so he could save himself. Needless to say, people are angry about this situation, and they should be, to be completely honest. So what did Ksoo's day reveal about have zero regrets for snitching on his own son? Ksso is one of the main hitters from ATK, a Jacksonville-based gang that's allied with people like Young and Ace. Their main rivals are a squad called KTA, headed up by Foolio. The gang has had beef for a good few years now, but it really only came to attention in the mainstream when the ATK crew released a track called Who I Smoke. The track essentially just lists a bunch of dead KTA members, but since the track is so catchy and features a sample from the popular song 1,000 Miles, most people don't listen to the lyrics. The song became a viral sensation. You had teenage white kids on TikTok dancing around to a song that's talking about smoking on dead ops. It's honestly pretty morbid when you think about it. The juxtaposition of a happy tune with the lyrics that are talking about smoking on people like Bibby makes for a pretty ghoulish listening experience. Speaking of Bibby, that's one of Foolio's dead homies. Bibby was a 16-year-old high school student at the time of his death, attending Grand Park High School. Bibby went over to a friend's house to hang out one day after school. He and his homie were chilling out on the porch. Some people ran up on the two of them and started popping off shots. Duo ran away, but the ops followed Bibby until they finished the job. Bibby's mom spoke on the subject shortly after the vigil that they held for Bibby. She said, "If I gotta call you all every day, if I gotta call JSO every day, detectives every day, I'm gonna shake Duval County until they find my child's killer. I'm gonna rock this city until they get justice for my baby. Until everybody involved is arrested, I'm gonna shake Duval County." Foolio also spoke on the loss of his homie in the form of song. He released a track called Bibby Story back in 2020. The chorus just repeats, "Why the f you gotta leave? Why ain't you stay with me?" Foolio also claims that he had told Bibby to stay in his house after school on the day he passed away. "Fresh out of school, you came to me, gave you a hug. What's up, little bruh? You left that pain with me. You had your gun, I had my 40, kept my thing with me. You said you dying about the 6, was same with me. I told your ass don't leave that day, don't walk out the house." Foolio also mentions that Bibby had a few bodies, which will be important later as it provides a good clue as to why ATK saw a good fit to get rid of him. Upon the release of Who I Smoke, KTA had to hit back with a track that would at least attempt to go against the ATK track. As a result, Foolio released When I See You remix. Foolio basically does the same thing Young and Ace and the rest of his homies did on Who I Smoke. He talks about all the dead ops he's smoking on. He also adds that the second he sees anyone from ATK is on site, he's popping off shots. He also brings up one of the darkest days in ATK's history. Back in 2018, a car pulled up next to the vehicle Young and Ace was riding in. The car was Ace, Ace's brother, and a few homies. Ace's brother, whose real name was Trevon Bullard, didn't make it out of the car alive. Neither did Royale Devon Smith Jr. or Jacoby Deshad Grover. Young and Ace himself was taken to the hospital in critical condition, but he ended up recovering from his injuries. As the beef grew, he released another hard track, which is just called List of Dead Ops. It's literally just what it says. He goes through a giant list of all the people from ATK who have died as a result of their gang lifestyle. But one of the people who isn't on that list is none other than Ksso. Ksso somehow managed to avoid the revenge of KTA, but was recently victim to the wrath of the law. Ksso's real name is Hakeem Robinson. His father, Abdul Robinson. He also has a brother by the name of Abdul Robinson Jr. Now that we already know that Ksso is referred to as a major mover in the ATK gang in a lot of their songs, but that kind of information is also available to the state. As a matter of fact, they've probably been watching and investigating him for a long time. Eventually, he finally got picked up. Ksso was arrested in September of 2020. He's been held in prison by police while he's been awaiting a trial ever since. They finally caught up with him after investigating the January death of Charles McCormick, otherwise known as Lil Buck. Lil Buck passed away on the 15th of January, shortly before noon. He was walking around at a shopping center called Dames Point Plaza. That's when Ksso and an accomplice allegedly hopped out of their car and popped some shots off in the parking lot. From there, they fled the scene after being spotted by an off-duty police officer and broke into a nearby house. That officer followed them into a second location, but after they broke in, changed their clothes, and held the homeowner hostage for a little bit, a Dodge showed up and picked him up. It's alleged that Ksso's own daddy, Abdul, was the driver when heading over to Dames Point Plaza. That means he also helped out at the second location where the homeowner was held hostage, giving the two of them time to escape. This also means that his father is an accomplice in both those crimes, and now awaiting trial alongside Ksso. While being held in jail, Ksso was seeking bond. In fact, a representative from his record label attempted to post the bond for him. That's when the court had also indicted him on charges over the death of Bibi we discussed earlier. Ever since then, both Ksoo's attorney and his sister have been fighting for his release from prison. The judge denied him bond because they believe he's a danger to society and could potentially threaten witnesses if he was released. If what the news on the story says is true, the police basically caught Ksso and his dad red-handed. That being said, his defense disagrees. Although there's closed-circuit TV footage of two people at the Dames Point Plaza, Ksoo's attorney and sister both allege that the person in the footage is way too short to be Ksso. Seems like they have a pretty solid defense, right? Well, not exactly. In exchange for a lighter sentence, Ksoo's dad decided that he's gonna testify against his own boy. Now, I don't even have to point out how crazy that is. Worst part of all this might be the fact that Abdul was driving when everything went down. The only real defense here is that Ksso told him to stop when they ran into Little Buck completely by chance. But that's unlikely too, honestly. What makes this story even flimsier is the fact that he then drove to a completely random house to try to cover up their identities. It really doesn't look good for Abdul Robinson. To make matters even worse, Abdul Robinson Jr. and two other suspects aside from Abdul and Ksso are attached to the crime. Now that's 3 members of the Robinson family who are implicated. It's unclear what each part they played in the crime, but it's all currently under investigation. Some of them could have been people who showed up to pick him up in the Dodge. Either way, Abdul doesn't seem like he's gonna let himself go down. He's decided that he's gonna cooperate with the police and tell them all what happened for a lighter sentence. Of course, this set the internet on fire. Tons of celebrities have commented on Abdul's decision to testify against his own boy, Ksso. Charleston White spoke on it with Say Cheese, where he explained that as a father, you're supposed to stand in front of his son when he's in danger, not behind him. He ends the interview just saying, "Shame on you." 50 Cent made a now deleted Instagram post saying, "Damn it, man, I see it all now. You can't trust nobody." Ksso's dad himself finally made a statement on why exactly he's about to snitch on his own boy, saying, "If it was me and my daddy shake a tip in a situation like this, I would have been freed my daddy a long time ago. No matter what my consequences would have been, no justification needed. Especially if he's a good, great daddy at that part. He could do more for me out of jail than in jail prison. Who leave their daddy in jail to rot? Especially when you know he innocent. I would have been stood up and said my daddy ain't got a thing to do with it. You been out there in that free world, talk that talk out there until it's time to walk that walks, facing that life sentence." Now, honestly, you can kind of see where he's actually coming from at the very end there. If he were actually a good father, he wouldn't have 2 sons caught up in this situation. It's just that he's facing a potential life sentence, and now he has to face up to the music. Or flip on his son. He's scared because the lifestyle his sons grew up into is catching up with him. That's why he's really doing it. Of course, he claims to be doing it because he'd be more used to his son outside of jail than inside, but how is that true? They still have a chance to get him off, but not if he snitches. The best he could do from outside of jail is help with an appeal. But you just literally gave up your own son, bro. Weirdly enough, before he decided to cooperate, police were assuming that he was actually the kingpin of ATK. And now he's their star witness? That's the absurdity that Ksso's lawyer pointed out in a statement. Ksso isn't worried about it, at least according to his lawyer. He said, "This is yet another witness that came to them in handcuffs. We're not concerned. The government has repeatedly said how bad of a guy the father is. Now they present him as some pillar of truth. All their witnesses, convicted criminals that were pending prosecution, have motive to lie and save themselves. Meanwhile, we have the truth, like the video and witnesses that prove Mr. Robinson cannot be the shooter. That's why we're not concerned." The most recent development in the case was the pre-trial hearing, which was held on July 19th. It wasn't the juiciest courtroom meeting ever, but there were a few interesting details. The defense said that they're currently holding interviews with potential witnesses, which number somewhere around 140. Aside from that, another pre-trial hearing scheduled for August 31st of 2022. We'll learn a lot more about what this trial is going to look like at that point. But what do y'all think about all this though? Is Ksso's dad reasoning actually valid, or is he just a rat who runs away when he sees a cage? Is there any possible way Ksso can beat this trial with his dad testifying against him? Let us know what you think down below in the comments section. You also got to go ahead and peep this next story if you like this one. And as always, man, don't forget to keep it RIZZLE.